Have you ever wondered what it feels like to finally return back to your true self, to know who you are in the inside and not what the distraction of the world or what the world tells you that you are? Today, we are going to go on a journey to dive deeper into your life, your environment, and you as a human being to help you to connect back to yourself, to your God, and to your inner man based off of what you choose or what your part is and what your life journey may be. Today, yeah, I am with Robert White. And Robert White has have experience over the years of building phenomenal leaders, helping people to reconnect back with their inner self in order to fulfill that greatest and truest potential. So if you're here for the first time, do not forget to subscribe, do not forget to hit notification button, and do not forget also to follow us on Instagram. So today here is Robert White. Robert, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, Samuel, I guess what I'm best known for is being a businessman, maybe a businessman with a mission. I have founded and led three companies that offer high impact experiential learning for executives, training and leadership, but do use them in experiential base. And there are 1,300,000 people that have attended courses in those companies that I founded and led. So I'm known for that, but I'm also uh, a human being with my own journey, and I would admit to some confusion about religion and its role in my life, which is one of the reasons I was attracted to you, and also some things that have happened recently for me that helped me gain some clarity where I almost didn't know I wasn't clear, but I've learned that in the last few years. So I'm a human being on a journey and a person who currently, in terms of my life purpose, is I want to give back. I want to contribute. I want to make a difference. All of those expressions. I want my life to matter. I actually have a hoodie, a sweatshirt that says "You matter" to Christ, and uh, uh, and that pretty much encapsulates a little brief look at me. I've lived abroad for 23 years of my working life. I have an interest in Asia that's quite deep and quite sincere. And I've done a lot of good things in my life, and I've done some things that I regret. So that's me.
That's a summary there on Robert White. Robert White, when I saw his profile, I was the one who reached out to him directly and I told him, hey, I would like you to be on our podcast. I would like you to share your expertise and your experience on Proverbial Minds because I was just blown away by the work he does and by his background and his track record of transforming people's life, of helping people to find that inner peace once again in the busy and noisy world where there are so many accolades and expectations of individual of humans. And in an attempt to meet that demand and meet that expectation placed on us by society, we've lost touch with our inner self. We've lost touch with our peace. We've lost touch with our path and our purpose and why we're actually on this earth. And Robert White here today is going to help us to channel back to that journey. So, welcome to the Proverbial Mind podcast. Again, it's your host, Samuel Oladeji, and here with me is Robert White. And today we are going to discuss with you about the path to inner peace, discovering your true potentials. So, Robert, the world is full of distraction today, and there's so much expectations in the society of what you should be, what you should do with your life, and the ideal kind of lifestyle, the ideal kind of leader, the ideal kind of person of who you should be in order for you to fit in the hierarchy of the social circle. What is your thoughts on that notion? What do you believe in? What do you take? What's your take on that notion?
One of the things we have taught over the years in our courses, Samuel, is that our belief system, that those set of beliefs that are on top of our authentic self, but often below the surface in terms of our ability to understand and accept them. But we have this set of beliefs. We have beliefs about money, beliefs about God, beliefs about marriage, beliefs about raising children. And we don't have to think about our position on so many important life
Right.
events. And the experts tell us that those beliefs are pretty much in place by the time we're 8 years old.
Right.
And that we then, as human beings, we like to be right. So we therefore look for events that support that belief, even if it's unconscious. We're constantly looking for reinforcement that we're right about each of those beliefs, and there perhaps are hundreds of them. And I mention that because in my growing up, here in the United States, we have this red versus blue dichotomy, the
Hmm.
conservative versus liberal. And in my family, we had a dichotomy, which was that my father was a strong Irish Catholic, and my mother was Protestant. And, we didn't talk much about that dichotomy, but my father went to Mass and my mother sent us to Sunday school. And but some things happened along the way as a result of that difference between in terms of their faith or their expressions of faith. And those things were, to a child, me,
Hmm.
very damaging and caused me to have very strong anti-religious beliefs. At the same time, and this is something that I've realized more as I've gotten older, those lessons from Sunday school, from going to church actually twice a day on Sunday uh, for all of those years, inculcated me with a set of values that have served me incredibly well. And a second story to kind of bring it more current is that in the last 3 years, I've led 4 executive retreats called Living a Better Story.
Right.
And the man that put this together is a committed Christian, but he had this idea that we would bring together Christians and Jews and Muslims and Buddhists and Hindus for that had the overall defining characteristic is that most of the participants did not attend church or synagogue or mosque or shrine or temple. That yet they lived their lives personally and professionally consistent with their faith. But that organized religion didn't work for them. And I was just a hired gun, somebody to come in and lead the program and use
Right.
our experiential event approach. And uh, it's difficult to say how profound this was for me, Samuel. I mean, the participants got value, and many of them have become close friends, and it's just
Right.
been a wonderful experience. But all of that is based on, for me, feeling like I found my tribe. I found a group of people that I was very similar to. I felt that I resonated with them in being uncomfortable with organized religion, and yet that all of our important decisions were based on our faith.
Mm.
So I'm a follower of Jesus as an example, as a teacher, uh, as a lodestone, a reference point
Right.
for all of my life. And so that's been an interesting journey for me, and a certain amount of healing of
Hmm.
that past trauma of what happened to me as a child around
Child.
religion, a kind of an ease or a peace that I didn't expect at this point in my life, but that I celebrate, that I honor, and that I am so appreciative of. And so a lot of the work that we've done around personal growth, which is the main theme of the 1,300,000 people that have been through our seminars, not that you become a more skilled person exactly, even though there are aspects of that, but rather that you access a deeper part of yourself, that you access what we call the authentic self, that what you're born with,
Born, right.
uh, and that you access that and start to align your life and for that matter, your faith around that sense of who you really are and what's possible for you as a human being.
Okay.
So anyway, that's kind of a to bring you up to date personally. We could talk for hours, but we don't have hours in this kind of program.
Right.
Um, the second piece that I would mention, the story that I would mention, is that uh, I founded a company called Arc International. We did trainings all over Asia, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, Korea, Hong Kong, mainland China, Australia, and we became the largest training company in Asia. But the startup in Japan was the typical new beginning for any entrepreneurial effort, in that I'm sleeping on a partner's sofa. We don't have any money. And then it progressed to where we were doing pretty well. We were getting up to around 1,000 students a month,
Mm,
and we were profitable, and we were doing some good work, I think. And but I was also running a consulting company and a sales training company. And the people from the personal growth part of our business came to me one day and said, we have one everybody that came to our seminar did not came from a referral from a graduate. We didn't advertise, we didn't have any marketing. It was all about if you liked the seminar, you brought your friends, your
right.
relatives, your colleagues. And so those people that, they might introduce two people or three people, but there are also people that introduce 50 people. And we actually had a family that introduced over 400 students over time to our trainings. It was a husband and wife team that ran what is called a lay Buddhist organization. And there are several of those in Japan, and they're very powerful. They're very influential in every area of life. And this was one of those companies. Somehow the husband and wife had come to our training, and I hadn't met them, but they'd come to our training, and then they loved it, and they started bringing adherents to their faith to our training. 400 people, over 400 people. So the staff said, you have to go to them in a Japanese way and say thank you. Bring a gift,
Right.
bow, the whole Japanese cultural thing. And so we did that. I put on my best suit and we bought some appropriate gifts, and a little committee behind me. We went off and said thank you. And the husband, who was the spiritual leader of that faith, excused himself after about 20 minutes and left the room,
Mm,
but encouraged us to stay and talk with his wife. And she was the most motherly housewife kind of person you could ever meet. A little overweight, a big smile all the time, so warm, so welcoming. And I kind of relaxed into her presence. And so she was a great example of their faith, but also a great example of our trainings.
right.
And I noticed that. And at some point, I asked her, why are you sending all these people to our training? And she said, in a very plain spoken, direct way, you can't be a good Buddhist unless you first go to Robert's training. And I've thought about that over the years, because she was actually pointing at something I was unaware of in the connection between what we were doing and that particular faith. But then I started noticing there were Christians saying the same kinds of things to me, one at a time instead of 400 at a time. And so what I learned is that our underlying methodology and the concepts behind the work we were doing
Mhm.
had immense value to people of faith. And Samuel, I don't know about your experience, but mine, in my limited kind of exploration of which church I should attend and things like that, what I notice is that it's wonderful to be in communion with others, and Christ taught us that. When two of us or more are gathered in His name, uh, there's something magical that can happen. Maybe it doesn't
Mm.
always happen, but it can, it's more likely to happen. But what I also noticed was really a tremendous amount of stress and anger and blaming and backbiting and gossip and just the most horrible human qualities are present in many churches. And in talking with Jewish friends, they claim it's worse in the synagogue. I have no experience of that, but that they've told me that. And I've also seen personally examples of that.
Hmm.
That we're supposed to be the most loving and kind and understanding and deeply spiritual people, and yet when we really
We're
look
doing
at
the opposite.
many of these organizations are just horrible. I have a younger brother named Jimmy, and Jimmy he's retired now, but he was a carpenter, and then they call it a carpenter foreman. He built houses.
Mm.
And he's just he and his wife are wonderful Christians and wonderful people. And as an example, when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans years ago, he he was retired by then,
Mhm.
and what he did was he had a motor home, for vacations and things. He took it to New Orleans and parked it, and for 1 year, they lived in that motor home. Uh, and they would fly home once a month to Virginia where they lived, to handle stuff. But they lived in New Orleans and rebuilt homes for a year as a volunteer. And so he's really public spirited, very giving, very talented in an area that the people of New Orleans really needed, which is rebuilding their homes. But his son got married, and of course I wanted to go to the my nephew's wedding, and I did. But I even with my busy schedule, I realized I haven't spent much time with my brother, and I want to. So I actually lived in their home for a week, which is I treasure that memory of that. But during that week, their church in a rural part of Virginia had a once a year event because the ladies of that church spend all year long producing these incredible quilts. That many of them with interesting colors and patterns, and they were actually famous that buyers came from all over the world to the auction for those quilts once a year. And of course, for the ladies of the church, it was bragging rights on who got the biggest price. And all of the money for the quilts went to charity. 50% for the uh, basically feeding the homeless in their area, and 50% went into international aid uh, coffers. So and then, of course, not only was it an auction of these beautiful displaying that was like going to a museum of quilting. They were hanging everywhere around the church grounds. But there was also music and speeches and just people being together. It was just a wonderful event. Well, in the 6 months before the quilting event, what I learned by being there was that my brother had, and in retirement, had supervised the rebuilding of the kitchen for the community hall of that church and installed modern appliances and cabinets and made it all fresh and new and much more useful. Well, as we sat in our little family group, there was a constant parade of women who came up to us. Some of them to say thank you to my brother, which was heartwarming and wonderful. Most of them to complain. They all had a different notion of what that kitchen should look like. They ignored the fact that my brother did it free. And not
Right.
only that, but he leaned on his suppliers over the years.
Mm.
He had many relationships in the building trades for free appliances and free wood and free everything. So for almost nothing, he produced a new kitchen for the
Mhm.
church. And yet, I heard some of the nastiest comments. Well, Mabel, seems to like that brand of refrigerator, but I've heard bad things about it. And you can't trust Mabel. Things like that, you know. Anyway, the point of it is that this our belief system that we grow up with from our families, from the culture, from our communities, um, sometimes gets in the way of being a full expression of what I believe in my case and yours, that Christ intended for us, that God intended for us, that's within us. If
Right.
we can get all that other stuff out of the
Out of
way.
our head. Right.
So anyway, that's
What then would be your recommendation on what are some practical guides? Because to wrap up what you've illustrated so far through the stories is, we as human beings, we grow up having some certain experiences and things that shape our knowledge as humans. Because as a child, you don't really know much. You're looking at the outside world to learn a lot of things. And majority of those things you learn, sometimes you don't know if they are good or bad because you don't have references to cross check what is actually the right way. And so majority of the times we download these informations, we learn so much of these things, and some people might eventually have the opportunity to filter out those mindsets and kick out the bad ones, retain the good one, and learn something new. Whereas some people might not have the opportunity to do so because they don't have any other experience or exposure to a different mindset more than what they've always known. And these are the things that shape us and shape who we are and our behaviors as human beings. Some that leads into behaviors and attitudes and belief system that prevent us to experience the fullness of who we are created to be by God and the mission that we have been sent to fulfill here on earth. And so now, how do people kick out this kind of mindset and habits away from their life? How do they unwind? How do they unlearn those bad behaviors, those bad mindset, and then become an exceptional human being by the renewing of their mind, like the Bible say? A man shall be transformed by the renewing of his mind. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So how can
yes.
they change their concept of what their mind is and then transform that mindset, which is the central processing unit of their life and the forefront of anything that goes on in your life? It starts here in your mind. Whatever you believe you are is what you show forth your attitude and your actions. So how do they transform their mind? What are some recommendations based on your training programs that you can give the proverbial mind people that they can use to shape their life now?
Well, first of all, I would recommend to your listeners and viewers that if they're ready to take a quantum leap in terms of their effectiveness in all areas of their life, and certainly in terms of their celebration of their faith, and they're able to become a better Christian, a better Jew, a better Buddhist, a better Muslim, and that is go to one of these trainings. I don't do that kind of work in the U.S. anymore, but I have a wide network of people that do.
Mm.
If you reach out to me, I'll introduce you to them, somebody in your area. Robert at extraordinarypeople.com is my email. I answer every one of them personally on this subject. And I'll introduce you to somebody and they'll tell you about their program. But if you're not going to do a program right now, there's not a readiness for you or something might be blocking you temporarily. There's three things that we find that are the heart of all of our programs,
Mm.
and you can do them on your own. It's easier to have some help with it, but you can do them on your own with reading, maybe with a minister helping you. And those three things are, first of all, is to complete your past. The metaphor that I've used is that for many of us, we're carrying around a backpack with 50 pounds of lead in the backpack. And until we take that backpack off, we can't walk
Mm.
fast or run.
Right.
And the backpack is all of these memories that include blame and shame and regret and guilt, but also contain past success. the way things worked for you 10 years ago and you want them to work for you today.
Right.
We all can accept that society is changing way too fast
Right.
for what has worked 10 years ago to work today.
Right.
So blame, shame, regret, guilt, let it go. Do anything you can. And by the way, part of it sounds kind of terrible in some ways, but I mean, I highly recommend getting to the point where when you notice one of these patterns from the past, you laugh at yourself. Ha ha, I did it again. And I know where that came from. I know what experience in my past is still hanging on in me and influencing my choices, my
Hmm.
choices of relationships, of how I operate in the world, how I choose. So the first step is to get the negative energy off of all of those things. Get free uh, to the greatest degree that you can. And I'm not talking about handling everything from our past, but boy, there usually are some things for each of us
Hmm.
that show up every day for us in the choices that we make, how we are with people. The second piece of it is to better learn to better tell the truth about our current reality. Many people are living in a story that's just false
Right.
about what a good person they are or how righteous they are or what a failure they are.
Hmm.
You know, in my book, Living an Extraordinary Life, people would come up after it was published and say, well, I love your book, and I bought 20 copies and some really nice things. And then they'd say, but I'm a little disappointed in one thing. Of course, I would ask what. They would say, it's not about you. And that's true. The
Hmm.
book is about a selection of graduates out of that 1,300,000 people and what they learned from their personal interaction with our material. So that's what the book is. What I didn't tell people for years is that one chapter is about me. It doesn't say that in the book, of course, but the what the chapter is about is the most limiting belief that
Hmm.
we know of is you are not enough. You're not
But that.
educated enough. You didn't go to the right schools.
Hmm.
You didn't have the right beginning. You don't have any money, but you're insecure. You're an introvert, or you're an extrovert, or whatever way you identify yourself. It's not enough. It's
Right.
not right for life. And that's the kind of a belief that's so horribly limiting. And for me,
Hmm.
that's been my journey is getting past being enough. And I'd say in the last 10 or 15 years, something I have a little pride in is I know that I'm enough. I'm not perfect,
Right.
but I'm enough. I'm one of God's children. I was made for perfection. And
Hmm.
did I wander away from it for at certain times in my life? Yes, unfortunately, but it's true.
Right.
But what I needed to do was to get out of my story about not being enough and get into a celebration of being a unique human being. My Hindu friend Arjun has an expression I love. He says, we are all one of one.
Right.
God created us unique, and that our job is to find out why are we here
Right.
and then express that in the world. And if you have done some work on completing your past, and getting better at telling the truth about your current reality, about how you're showing up in the world, in
Hmm.
your relationships, in your work, in your community, then if you've done those two things, you've created a space. And that space is where you can choose your future
Right.
instead of having your future just be an automatic product
Hmm.
of your history. And that future, in our experience, usually includes contribution. It includes celebration. It includes leisure. And it includes really making a difference in the world and fulfilling God's promises to us. Uh, so that's what you can do on your own with reading, with videos, with conversations with people that are already more advanced than you are or than I am. I have a wide circle of friends that I count on for feedback to help me continue to grow in those areas
Yes.
that I believe God put me here to do. And so you can do that on your own. You may have read a little more deeply or join a Bible study group or find a mentor or two or three or 10.
Yes.
And but be careful about who you're listening to.
Exactly.
That they got some knowledge and some ability to put it across. So
Right.
that's what people can do. Uh, I have um, a free offer for your listeners and viewers. And that's if you go to my website, extraordinarypeople.com, you can sign up for a free weekly e-zine, an email that comes once a week, and it's called an Extraordinary Minute. It's all designed to be read in 1 minute or less. And, an idea or something that I'm learning about or something that I represent, a point of view for you to look at and use, hopefully, in your life. If you hit reply to any of those emails, I receive it personally. And I answer most of them, not all, but most of them. And if you have a question, a comment, a point of view, and also I've learned from the people that I've been doing this for 16 years. So I've had a lot of feedback from readers and learned a lot from them also. At the same time, you'll get a free download, a PDF that is shareable. And it's basically what I've learned about success, about handling those surface things that get in the way of a full self-expression of the authentic you. And there's a little self-administered test in there that a lot of people have said is very, very valuable. I've rewritten it over 30 times. I'm trying to stay away from leave it the same for a while.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have said it's valuable for their book clubs or for their brown bag lunches at work where they talk about getting better or just a lot of you, or just personally in the quiet of your own life, hopefully, and in terms of something to do after prayer, in terms of taking action in your life to make it better. So if you go to extraordinarypeople.com, you can, and you also can get signed copies of my book on that website. So
So
my one of my daughters says, Rob, Daddy, you think you're a big deal. You're just a book salesman today. So, and she's probably right. So, if anyway, my joy comes from supporting people in their growth. So, if you feel the need to be in relationship, that's how you do it.
that is it, guys, on inner peace. One thing that we've discussed on today is I really like the three ending aspect that Robert shared with us, which is taking off the bag. You got to throw that bag away of your past and all of those things that you have going on in your life. They're really going to stop you, really, really stop you from moving forward. And then, secondly, be honest with yourself. When you're honest with yourself, you're able to see with clarity and with precision, which takes away all the clutters and all the lies. And then also, that creates a space for you to then make a way for that person that you desire to be in the future. And Robert has also shared about going to extraordinarylife.com to get free access to weekly emails and stuff, and also checking his network for you to get maybe a professional person who is in the field who can help you to guide your way back to finding that inner peace, which will help you to discover your true potential and bring you back to the person of who you are and discovery of your true self. God created everybody for an exceptional purpose and exceptional mission in this world and in life. And don't ever ever think that you're less. Don't ever ever think that you're not capable. Don't ever ever think that you don't have what it takes. Because before anyone has an opinion, God already had the purpose for your life. All you have to do is discover that purpose. He's not expecting you to be perfect. He's just expecting you to be able to walk to the path that makes you qualified for your own unique purpose. Like Robert said, it is one for one, and one for one it is indeed. There is no going to be another you. You are your only you. And you owe it to you to be the true you and the full version of you. So that is it, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, please do not forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, and like the video. Share it with your friends and listen to us on Apple Podcasts too if you like the voice version. And if you're here for the first time, visit our channel, Proverbial Minds, and watch our inaugural video to learn what Proverbial Minds is all about. Our goal is to transform lives, and we can't do that without your help. If you watch the video to the end, you help YouTube know that you love it, and YouTube will recommend it to more people. So if you have testimonials or any question, reach out to us at proverbialminds@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram. And that is it, guys. On to the next one. Stay blessed.